Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a video that I have hinted towards for a long time, but I'm finally going to be sleeving all of my miscellaneous photo cards because I was waiting for these popcorn sleeves to come in the mail in this group order. I will drop a handle of the group order manager that I joined for because they're really great. They do like NCT and the boys group orders as well, but I wanted to try out the popcorn sleeves, and so I had to wait for them to arrive to my home before I did that. So as you can see here, I have taken out all of my miscellaneous photo cards from all of my binders, and we're going to be going through sleeving them and putting them back away in the binders. And I figured, since that's, it could be like an ASMR video, I guess, but to make it more exciting, I'm gonna do a K-pop collector Q&A. I found a few different screenshot ones on Twitter, but I did find this like thread from this person. I do not know who they are, but they posted like a thread of K-pop collector Q&As, and I have a few other ones. But I want to try out first. I'll try out theirs first because they have some like interesting questions. So I'm going to put that there. We also have our cold brew, everyone, because it's the morning for me. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to do my 17 miscellaneous first, and then I guess we'll do the girls and then the boys because that's usually how I do my photo card videos. But I don't even count, y'all. Should we count? Oh my god, that's gonna be so difficult. Maybe I'll give you a number at the end. But let's move some of these photo cards out of the way first. I also bought, y'all, as a side note, I used one pack already for just like my random twice cards that I forgot to store in my first video, but we have 24 packs of these, and I think we're going to use all of them up. I'm even worried that I might not have enough. But anyway, okay, so what we're going to do first, all right, so we're gonna get started here. This is now my miscellaneous 17 and miscellaneous the boys. They're all in here. The boys are already sleeved, so we don't need to worry about them. But we're starting at the beginning. Okay, I feel like the best way to just is here. You can't see the sleeves, but I feel like I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to which hand I should use to sleeve. Okay, so anyway, we'll start off. We'll go through, we'll do them in 9 pocket pages. So we're starting off with 17 today. So I now own every single version of every 17 album. So these are just all of the pulls. If you're new here, I collect Wanu from 17, and I also kind of selectively collect Mingyu, and then my other like whichever other like top bias I want to collect to basically fill out my 17 Wanu 9 pocket pages. So let's see, to start off maybe for the Q&A before I get into the screenshot that I have up in front of me. Also, sorry about this lighting, everyone. That's just it's the lighting that I have in my apartment, so I cannot change it. But anyway, so I started collecting. Okay, let's back up. I got into K-pop in 2020. I actually had it's kind of funny. I like so I work in a gym and I'm a personal trainer, and at the first gym that I worked in, I had this friend who is still one of my like best friends to this day. We don't live in the same state anymore, but we still, you know, obviously they're still one of my best friends. So she worked at the front desk at my gym, and I worked at I was in sales at the time before I became a personal trainer. So I was like sitting in my office one day, and my friend comes into the office and is like, I just found this like group online. This is in 2019 actually. And she was like, I'm gonna send you the video, they're so good, whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And she texted me the video, and I watched it when I got home that day, and it was One We. And if you don't know One We is a South Korean band, and they're under RBW, which is the same. Are these lenties gonna fit in here? Oh my god, just fits. Okay. One We is this band under RBW, which has also the label that has One Us and Mamamoo and Purple Kiss, you know, amazing vocal powerhouse, small label. And I watched the video, and it was Regulus. And if you don't know Regulus, 내가 사는 별의 이름은 야행성이라고들 불러. 매일 어두울진 몰라도 외롭지는 않아. If I can remember, I'm gonna link it in the description of this video, because that song is a masterpiece. But like, I didn't used to listen to me, so my music taste is very pop. Like when I was growing up, I was into One Direction. That was like, and then whatever top 40 hits. Once the Jonas Brothers came back with Sucker, which also was in 2019 actually, I was obsessed. I wasn't like an original Joe Bros fan, but I like loved Sucker, and I was like, oh my god, getting back on the boy group train is so fun, because obviously at that point One Direction had been, you know, they're still on their hiatus, but whatever. As we know, they're not a practicing group anymore. So anyway, I listened to like, yeah, top 40 stuff and just like pop stuff, and also EDM and like electronic music. Like I loved Zed and Avicii. I saw Avicii before he passed away, which is amazing that I got to do that. But anyway, so that's like my background and my music taste. I also was a dancer growing up, so I really like songs that just have like a good beat and rhythm, because that's like what I was surrounded with when I was growing up. So anyway, my friend sends me this One We video, and I liked it, but like that wasn't the music style. Okay, so now when I listen to Regulus, it's so emotional. I love that song. But at the time I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I think she also sent me, because at the time they had just released their One album, which is the album that had Q as the title track and that had Hwasa from Mamamoo on it. Another great song. Okay, we're out of our first page. Also, these are these are the cards that I decided to go with, and so far they're working out well. So this is going well so far. Anyway, so my friend sent me, I think, Regulus and then Q, which is that title track from their first full album. So I was like, okay, cool, like that's fun. And then I think that was like it. Like I don't think I went back. Like I was like, that's a good song, and then that was it. And so that was in like October of 2019. And I think my friend would send me like some things, you know, kind of throughout. Like she was getting into One We and One Us and Mamamoo. My friend was always one of those people who's like ahead of, like she was liking the K-pop groups that were like, you know, underdog and like not the, you know, not like she wasn't into BTS yet at the time. She is now, but so anyway, she sends me those videos. She's telling me about some kind of stuff about K-pop, and I was like, cool, this is cool. But then I wasn't going into it myself. Then we get to 2020. I transfer into a different gym because I became a personal trainer, so I was switching locations to work and teach in the Pilates studio that they had at my other gym. And this is the beginning of 2019. It's February 2019. I go to work one day and I had some like computer stuff to do. So I was just listening to this like random podcast. And it was a podcast on the Ringer podcast network, which just does like pop culture stuff. But there's a girl, Kate Hallowell, on there who is also really into K-pop. And she sometimes did like sub episodes of like K-pop stuff. And this was February, what was it, 26th, 27th, when Map of the Soul 7 came out, BTS Map of the Soul 7. And I just listened to the whole episode of her and her friend reviewing it. And I was like not even really fully paying attention. I just needed something to listen to like while I was working. And they're talking about all the best songs, whatever. I'm like, okay, wasn't even really paying attention. Then I go home and then I open YouTube for some reason. Because at the time, now I watch YouTube, like that's my main form of like visual content. But at the time, that wasn't the case. Like at the time, I don't know why I opened YouTube that day, to be honest. And there is the performance just like at the front of my screen, which is BTS on James Corden Carpool Karaoke, and also their performance of On in Grand Central Station. And I was like, oh, I literally like just heard about these guys on this like random podcast I was listening to. Like, let me just watch this and like see what it's about. And I feel like a lot of my friends ask me, like friends who were my like local friends, like friends I had before I was getting into K-pop, who were like, how did you, like what made you, you know, obviously you can't understand the lyrics or whatever. And I was like, I feel like that thought did not even cross my mind. Like to me, I saw the performance in Grand Central Station. I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then I watched the Carpool Karaoke and I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I took a nap, and then I woke up later that night and I was like, I feel like I should go watch that performance again. That was really cool. And then the On Kinetic Manifesto film was the next thing that was queued up. So I watched that. And then, oh, these are already sleeved. So then I watched that. And then YouTube started recommending me. It's so funny to look back and see like what YouTube like recommends to you at the beginning, like when it has no idea like what you're gonna like or whatever, because it started showing me like War of Hormone was like one of the first other videos that they showed me. And then they showed me Yoongi's Shadow a lot because that album had obviously just come out, so they had done those like pre-release videos. So anyway, I just started watching, and then I think I went back and watched kind of like the same like 5-6 videos. I think they probably showed me DNA or something soon after that. But at first it was just like me being like, wait, this is cool. I'm just gonna like go back and rewatch again. And like I wasn't even like, ooh, I'm getting like into this group. I just wanted to see their performances again, because to me, like it was never about what they were singing about. And I know like now we love all of the lyricism and stuff, and especially BTS, but other K-pop. So I'm not discounting that. But at the beginning, that's not even what I was thinking about. I was just like, this is so cool. Like, I want to watch this again. And then I think I started looking up like, oh, like how to know the members of BTS. So I started watching those videos. And then I started messaging my friend, my original friend again from my first gym, as we remember. And I was like, do you know this group BTS? Which is so funny now, because obviously, like, they're the biggest group in the world. And I was just to my friend, I was like, wait, you like K-pop? Like, what about this group BTS? And she had, like, listened to them. And she was like, oh, yeah, I've heard some of their stuff. And I sent her some videos that I had seen. She started sending me emails, because this is my friend. She's so, like, organized and, like, sends, like, content for you to consume. But she was, like, sending me emails of all of the members of 1 week. She's like, well, remember the group I sent you a while ago? They're like K-pop as well. And I was like, oh, okay. So she sends me this email describing all the members of 1We, and then all the members of ONEUS, and then all the members of ACE. So those were like my first like 3 groups, and then BTS. And I was like, okay, cool, learning about all her members. And I was also on the side just like deep into learning about BTS. And then obviously the pandemic started to happen, and then I was like, I have so much time to learn all about this group. And that's kind of how I got into them. Like, it was like basically listening to a podcast, subtle like presses from my friend, and then it was just like YouTube. I could just watch so much stuff, and I started learning all about the members. And then I really quickly after started watching Bon Voyage, actually, because this is what I do whenever I get into a new group, is I try to watch their variety content, because to me, I feel like this is an extra Wanu that I have, so I just keep them in here. Because to me, like, variety content, I like to learn about the members' personalities that way. So I started watching Bon Voyage. I don't even know. We're opening our next packet now. I don't even know how did I even know that, like, Bon Voyage was, like, a thing? I feel like I must have started looking up, like, guides to, like, you know, BTS content or whatever. So anyway, then they were the first, like, big group. And then I was getting into One We, One Us, Ace with my friend. And then A Song Written Easily came out by One Us. 오늘도 너를 부른다. Say na na na. 우리가 함께 듣던 노래들. 하고 싶은 말들이 너무 많아서 하나씩 적다 보니 가사가 되었어. 헤어짐보다 더 아픈 그리움으로 널 생각하며 쉽게 쓰여진 노래. If you all don't know that song, I'm also going to link that video down below. That is, still to this day, one of my favorite K-pop songs of all time. Like, it is such an amazing song. And I just remember, like, that coming out, and my friend and I were so excited about it. And then I was getting her into BTS, and now BTS is one of her alt groups. Namjoon is her, like, alt bias, and then WOW from Ace is, like, her second alt bias. But anyway, I hope I have enough 9 pocket pages for this. I feel like I might need one more. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, and then I was really into listening to podcasts, so I was like, wait, there's got to be like podcasts about K-pop and about BTS, because that's how I was like, this is how I need to learn more about it, is like learning from people who know this stuff. So I looked up, I'm pretty sure I just searched like BTS on like the Apple podcasts, and this podcast came up called Standing BTS, and I listen to them to this day. They're now like some of my I think, sorry, pause. Oh yeah, I do have, okay, there's enough, I think there's enough space. I'm trying to remember my like order of my pages, but I think we have enough space. Okay. Standing BTS podcast, everyone go listen to it if you haven't. They're now like some of my really good friends, because I found their podcast. It was right around when the Festa was happening, and this is the first time that BTS was doing that thing where they would like play all of their concerts, and I watched, like, you know, I stayed up late. Okay, we're getting into my like miscellaneous tour card stuff now. I watched like so much of it because I was just like consuming and wanted to learn like all about this. So watched that. So those girls had just put out like an episode about it, and then I went back, I listened to every single one of their episodes, and then I started messaging them because I was like, hey, like, whatever, I love your podcast, or I don't know what I was saying, but they're some of my like really good friends now, which is just really fun that's how, like, that's one of the things I love about K-pop and K-pop fandom, is that you like, no one finds it weird if you like reach out to them and you're like, hey, like, whatever, I listen to your podcast, I like this group, or like, oh, I love your channel, or like, I love your Instagram, or now that I trade and sell photocards, it's just like, you can even talk to people you're trading and selling with, like, oh my god, did you see this video that this group posted today, or whatever. Like, everyone is just so, like, again, my friends who were like regular, my local friends were like, you, because I'm a pretty introverted person, and they were like, you reached out to these people like online that you didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, it's not like we all of us here like understand why we're here. Like everyone wants to chat about this stuff. And I don't know, that's one of the things that I find so fun. Like I now have made like basically all of the best friends that I have made since college are all like because of K-pop. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, the origin story of my finding K-pop. And then I got my mom into it because it was COVID. My parents at the time, I was living in a different state, so I was living closer to them, and I would like go to their house for like a month at a time or whatever, because again, I didn't have anything to do. The gym was closed. And I was like, Mom, you need to watch like these videos. And my mom's like, okay. And now my mom is like such a big K-pop fan. BTS is her top group, but I've gotten her into like every single group that you're gonna see that I collect. Like I have gotten my mom into the group as well. I've seen multiple concerts with my mom. We went to see BTS in LA. We went to see TXT in New York, and then at Lollapalooza we saw J-Hope there obviously also. What else has she gone to see? She went to see The Rose with me and Epic High. Anyway, okay, now we're starting my spreads. So I think I did this when I took these out. I think I did this in this order. So yes, that was like 2020 for me. And then the way I started getting into other groups, first of all, I think the next thing the algorithm served me was a TXT video, which makes sense because like they're like, oh, you watch like this big hit group BTS, like I'm sure you'll like this TXT group. And it was Can't You See Me Puma era, and Can't You See Me, I was like, wait, this is so good. So then I really quickly was like, wait, okay, so what's this other group? And then Dynamite came out, and I remember, like this is the other thing I love about K-pop. So I feel like all of us have such kind of like strong memories of like when a new song comes out, or when there's a comeback, or like what the season was, what the weather was like. Like I always remember, I always remember when Dynamite came out, and I always remember like the first time that I watched like an ATEEZ video, like where I was sitting, like all this stuff. I feel like, I don't know, it's just, maybe it's because it's with music. We just like have such strong connections to music. But Dynamite came out, and then the Standing BTS podcast, they did an episode about Dynamite. Or no. Well, they did, but that's a few months later, I think. They did this episode, and I remember I was going to Soul Cycle, because at this point we could go to fitness classes out, and they were outside in Boston in the winter, outside cycle classes. And I'm listening to this, like one of the Standing BTS podcast episodes, and they're like, oh, we have a new listener. Like she wrote in because she's like, found BTS during Dynamite and is like trying to make friends or whatever. And she had this story. She's like grew up liking One Direction. She like, I don't know, there was something else about the story that I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just message that person. They had like included her Twitter handle or something like in the podcast episode. And so I go to their Twitter page and I comment, and it's this girl, Rachel. And we started talking, started messaging. This was around the time that I was now starting to get into Hypen, because Island was coming out, and I was watching Island like as it was being released. And then I was starting to get into ATEEZ, and I'll get to that story in a second. But Rach and I started DMing, and then we started texting, and we used to send each other, this is like my best friend, Rachel. So this is how we met, like on Twitter. Both of us are these introverts. I don't understand. We both are like, how did we how do we do this? But again, it's like K-pop, so it's different. So we started messaging. We used to send each other these, we called them vlogs, but it was just us video, like talking to the camera and then sending each other. It was just like longer form. It was like voice memos, but I feel like at the time voice memos wasn't really like a thing. So anyway, that's how I met like another one of my best friends, is because we just messaged on Twitter about BTS. And then I started getting into ENHYPEN, and then, like I said, I started getting into ATEEZ. And the way I got into ATEEZ, because ATEEZ was like the next kind of big group that I got into, I had a friend who, again, I have a regular, like I guess real life friend named Caroline, and she lives in Chicago, and she was my friend from growing up when I did dance. So I've known her for like over half of my, like more than half my life. And I had posted on Twitter that I had an extra BTS B album that I was trying to sell. And my friend is like, wait, I have a friend who likes K-pop also. Maybe I can like see if she wants to buy this. And this was my friend Emmy. And so I start messaging Emmy, and she's like, I think she did end up buying the B album for me. But anyway, I started following her on Twitter, and Emmy keeps posting about this same guy. And I was like, eventually I was like, okay, who is this guy? And she's like, it's Hongjun from ATEEZ, you know, this group ATEEZ. And I was like, no. So then she's like, okay, here are all these videos, watch this variety content, whatever. And so I started getting into ATEEZ, and that's like the second like big group that I started falling into. And also at this time, like I know that I now am like the biggest Stray Kids fan. At the time, the only Stray Kids thing that I had heard was Backdoor, because I was listening to another podcast, the Kpop Cast podcast, and they were doing an episode like new releases or whatever, and Backdoor played. And I remember hearing it and being like, whoa, this is crazy. But I had never heard of Stray Kids before, so I was like, oh, like what are the Stray Kids? Like what is going on? And so I kind of just like knew about them, but I wasn't getting into them yet. Same thing with NCT. Actually, the same girl who did the podcast that initially got me into K-pop, she did an episode about Super M, and I listened to that. She was explaining in there like how SM works, and I was like, what's SM? And then she would describe like, you know, SM is like famous for their vocals, and like YG is famous for their like hip hop artists, and I'm like, what's YG? And I literally started like during all this time, it was like summer into fall of 2020, I was like taking notes, I was listening to podcast episodes, I was like, I was so like almost systematic about it. I was like, I need to learn everything about this whole genre. And so I was like kind of listening to some SM groups, but I remember Jopping actually was like probably one of the first like SM songs that I watched videos, and I loved that song from the beginning. I was listening to Jopping, like, I mean, to me it was a new song, but in 2020 it was like a year old. But anyway, so then getting into ATEEZ. I'm trying to get my friend Rachel into ATEEZ. She's still at this time like, I'm just learning about BTS. Like I gotta take it one step at a time. I'm watching Island. I'm rooting for Jungwon, my little baby leader. They all debut. It was very exciting. Kind of into TXT, One We, One Us, Ace. They're all still kind of back there. Obviously BTS is, you know, always there. And then we're almost done with 17. This side note, this DVD set did not come with a DK photo card. So I literally need to go online and buy one because I can't believe that I don't have his. Anyway. So I'm getting into ATEEZ, and it's end of 2020. It's Mama's 2020, and I watched the Mamas. Like I stayed up, watched all night. Oh my God, this is also the time where last spread. I met this other friend. Oh my gosh, I haven't talked to her in so long. She's so nice. I met this other friend, Tiana, also through the Standing BTS podcast. She lives in Hawaii, and we were also messaging at the time. So I'm watching the Mamas, and I was messaging my friend Rachel, my friend Emmy, and my friend Tiana. I felt like I was like, oh my God, I have so many K-pop friends. I had like 3, and my mom, obviously. But so anyway, I remember watching Mamas. And, you know, I kind of knew ATEEZ at this point, but the stage comes on. That's the boys, Stray Kids, and ATEEZ. and they're doing all their performances, and at the end it's like Kingdom, and I was like, what is that? And I was texting my friend Emmy, who at the time is like my K-pop like goddess. She knew the most compared to all my friends because she had been to K-pop since like 2017. Oh, whoops. So she's like, oh my god, these 3 groups are in Kingdom, that's crazy, whatever. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why is this a big deal? And she explained it to me about what like Kingdom was going to be, what there had been Road to Kingdom, and then the boys one, and then now like these are like the Gen 4 like it groups, you know, obviously in quote, whatever at the time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm like, okay, so I should get into Stray Kids and the boys before Kingdom because this sounds really fun. Like, I'm going to want to watch it. And so then I'm like, I'm going to get into the boys first because they have more members. So I'll feel more accomplished if I get into them first. So I spent the beginning of 2021, that was like, I literally was in the boys' school. I was like, I'm going to learn everything about this group. And then I'll get into Stray Kids because they had less members. So I was like, that's going to be easier. Okay, we're done with this 17 binder. Okay, miscellaneous girl group time. Let's see if I can put everything back in the right order. So, should I zoom a little more? Okay. So I started getting into the boys. It was like, I was in school. I was looking up every piece of their content. I was, you know, messaging my friend Emmy like every day being like, wait, who's this member? Who's this member? And it's so funny. I've told one of my other friends this recently, but not Chungha can stay there actually. But I started following the boys on Twitter, and this was before, you know, like idols all had their own Instagrams and stuff. So the boys would post selfies on Twitter like every day. And at this point, I actually am learning Korean as well. So like during this time period, like I now know how to read all the characters. I can like sound out all the words. I'm like writing down lyrics and like practicing writing in Korean, which I haven't done in a while. I should go back to doing that. But I can't like, you know, read fast. So I'm like seeing their posts and I'm like on Twitter and I'm like, who's this? Who's this? And I said my friend Emmy, every time I see a post that I'm like, oh, I like this member, I'm like, okay, who's this? And she's like, it's Sonu. And I'm like, okay. And then next day I'm like, okay, wait, who's this? And she's like, it's still Sonu. And I kept sending her photos of Sonu. And she's like, that's the same guy. Like, you keep sending me the same guy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I would message her being like, okay, here's a group of 11 of them. I'm going to tell you like who's who, like going down the line. And I finally got it right. She was like, you did it. But Sonu, as I just mentioned, was the one who stood out to me first. It's so funny because now, wait, let me get some white sleeves for this. I only have a few white sleeves, and I'm going to try to fill in some of these blank spots with white sleeves. It's so funny because now Sangyeon is my like top bias in the boys. He's one of my old biases. And I don't remember when, because Sonu was like the one that stood out to me first, and that's not unusual. Sonu is very popular for a good reason, and he's like the person who stands out to everyone at first. But I don't know, somehow I can't remember like when I transitioned from Sonu to Sangyeon. But anyway, I'm watching all the boys' content, and also plug, I have another set of friends that have a podcast called Ya Girls K-Drama Podcast, and they also do K-pop content, and I've been on their podcast a few times now, but we are gonna do one on the boys, like breakdown of all the boys, because they're getting into the boys now, and they're bringing me on to like explain everything. So anyway, if you like listening to podcasts, definitely go follow them as well. But so I started getting into the boys. I watched all of Road to Kingdom. I watched like pirated grainy versions of Road to Kingdom, and also I liked One Us, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna skip to where One Us is and where the boys is, because at the time I was like, I can't watch all these other groups, like I'm on a time crunch, Kingdom is about to start, I need to like get going. So I watched all of that, and then I think I just like learned all the Stray Kids members really quickly, and then Kingdom starts. And spoiler alert, Kingdom is one of my favorite pieces of TV content that has ever been released ever. I have watched Kingdom full through like 4 times. And at this time, ATEEZ also is having their comeback for Firework, and I'm trying to get my friend Rachel into ATEEZ. I'm having a crisis too, because like Wooyoung's my bias, but San is literally killing me in this comeback, and I just would send my friend videos of San, who now is my friend Rachel's bias in ATEEZ, but I keep sending her videos of San, and she's like, that's the only ATEEZ member she knew for like months, because she's like, Meg, you just keep talking about this guy. He's not even my bias, and it's just like, we all know. Firework San was quite a moment. So that's coming out, Kingdom's coming out, and now in Kingdom, I'm learning about these other groups, SF9 and iKON and BTOB. And this is at this point where I'm just like, okay, so this K-pop industry, like the amount of talent and diversity in this industry is crazy. Like, and it's just, I, for some reason, just had this like desire that I needed to learn like all about all these different groups, because I just found it so fascinating. So Kingdom, again, one of my favorite pieces of content. I made my mom start watching it. My mom visited me one weekend and we literally stayed up until like 2, 3 a.m. watching Kingdom. My friend, original friend, OG K-pop friend Tessa, we were watching Kingdom also. Then like, again, like flash forward months later, I make my friend Rachel watch Kingdom. Like I'm making my friend Shamba watch Kingdom right now. I literally make everyone into K-pop watch Kingdom. And it's also like, I mean, you know, it's a tough time on Kingdom. Like it's not flowers and rainbows. However, very important to watch Kingdom if you're a K-pop fan, I think. Now we're into Brave Girls. And all during this time, okay, so then I get into Stray Kids, and I literally remember the first time, like for me, now I like can't remember how I got, like how Wooyoung became my bias, how Sangyeon became my bias. Honestly, Jungkook became my bias in BTS. Jungkook was the last member that I learned who he was, which is wild now. I watched that carpool karaoke so many times, and I was literally like, who is that guy in the back? I always forgot his name. But Jungkook, it was because I started watching back BTS videos, and I watched Blood, Sweat, Tears, and he does that like flip in the air, and I was like, oh no, who is that? I thought Jimin was actually my first bias. I remember like I used to save stuff on Instagram before I had like a Twitter. I reactivated my One Direction Twitter when I finally was like going onto the Twitter game for K-pop. But also so funny, like I used to have notifications on for whenever Harry, Louis, Liam, Niall, and Zayn would like tweet. And when I restarted my Twitter, I obviously like completely forgot about that. And like one day I get this notification from like Louis Tomlinson, and I was like, what? And then I realized that I had done that in like 2013. So I had to go back, and I was like, I'm gonna remove these notifications now. But okay, we have the Blackpink girlies in here. Blackpink, I'm sure I definitely knew about them, but honestly, at this point, as you can tell, I hadn't really gotten into the girl groups yet. So, or 17. I know we just saw them, but I hadn't gotten to 17 yet. Actually, Left and Right had come out, obviously, in 2020, and I really liked Left and Right. I would play it, like, when I was working out and stuff, but I didn't know, and, like, I remember Home Run coming out, and I also remember Ready to Love coming out, but the whole time I was just like, like, this isn't fine, whatever, which, obviously, I was dumb back then. But this whole time, I wasn't, like, collecting anything for K-pop. I did buy, my first album I ever received was a gift from my friend Tessa. It was a One Us In Its Time album, which is the album that has a song written easily on it. Again, iconic song. One of the best songs in K-pop ever. So I did have that. That was like my first album gift, I think. And then we're now into ITZY. And I think the next thing that I bought was on probably like some very expensive like K-pop website, but I bought a set of Map of the Soul 7 albums, and I bought like another BTS album, I think. And this is how you know that I did not understand, like, I didn't understand like how collecting worked, because I got those Map of the Soul 7 albums, which, by the way, as we all know, are so huge, and they're just full of like folded pieces of paper. when we get to my BTS section, I'll show you the first photo card that I ever pulled, because I think I remember which one it is. But I got that Map of the Soul set of albums, opened all of them, and then I literally was like, why do I need all of these huge boxes? And I combined all of the inclusions into one, and I just threw away all of the other albums, which I know at this point, like, is sacrilegious, but at the time I didn't understand. And I was like, this is just taking up a lot of space. Like, I'm gonna get rid of this. And I had like a few BTS albums. I went to Target one day and I bought like a BTS Japanese album, and I bought Persona, and yeah, that was it. Like, I had like some, and I had my friend, I think, gifted me like an Ace album. But when did I first start collecting photo cards? It must have been 2021. Now Kingdom is over. Oh, the way that I found Han was immediate. I watched the first episode of Kingdom, and they're doing their like 100-second performance, and Han is like, there's this like part where Felix like he's doing the like, and he's jumping around, and he jumps, like, he does this thing where he like has to do like some kind of like flip turn, and he's supposed to jump like over Han and land on top of him, but in like one of the rehearsals he like literally like lands on Han, and Han's like, no, it's fine, like, don't worry, man, it's okay, even though he's like clearly like, damn, that hurt. And there's this I remember the screenshot that I took, and it's like in one of their like ITM interviews, and Han's talking, and it's like just Han, and he's like talking about how Felix like, you know, made a mistake. He's like, it's okay, like, you know, I did it for the team, whatever. And it's this photo of Han. He has these bright blue contacts in, and he has his big cute little cheeks, and his arms are out. And I was like, I remember sending this photo to my friend Tessa, and I was like, oh no, this guy, like, immediate. I was like, this might be the one. And then around this time also, Han released Wish You Back on YouTube. I listened to that song and I was like, I'm a goner for life. Like, I now have a Wish You Back tattoo on me. Like, that song is so important to me. And I remember just listening to it in the dark in my apartment, like, just like rewind over and over again. Because obviously this is before they put it on streaming platforms. So Han was actually immediate. I remember, like, and my friend did know, like, even though my friend at this time, like, she didn't know all these groups that I was getting into, she was getting into, like, all these other, like, you know, history of K-pop and, like, lesser known groups, but she knew, like, a bunch of random members, and she knew Han, and so she was the person I would just text. This is my OG friend, Tessa. I would text her just, like, photos of Han, and she'd be like, yeah, here's Meg again, Meg's a goner. Which is true. And so then I'm getting into Stray Kids. Like, I had my The Boys School. I had, obviously, AT School was earlier at the end of 2020. And now it's Stray Kids time. And I watched every single piece of content on Stray Kids YouTube channel. Literally, no joke. If you go back and just, like, go through their YouTube, they have playlists of, like, every era. And I literally watched, like, hundreds and hundreds of videos. And then I watched their, like, because my friend Emmy's like, well, you probably should watch, even though it's so sad, you should watch their, like, debut, like, making show, which is at the time also so funny because they show, like, Twice and ITZY on there, and I did not know them at the time, really. I think I knew ITZY and I knew of Twice, but I hadn't, like, started listening to their music really yet. So I watched all of that. Obviously, we know how that went. That was so, just, that show is so tragic. Like, good in the end, but to get to the end is rough. Yeah, and then I think from there, that Stray Kids I started then finding, like, unboxers on YouTube, because I was then like, oh, I want to buy this Stray Kids album, but, like, which one should I watch? So I'd watch, like, Shawols NL's unboxings, and then I think I got served. I started watching 1-8, I think, probably. Honeydew Mochi is one of my faves as well. 8 Ratty, all of the big OG ones. So I started watching a lot of their videos, and at the time I remember watching and seeing, you know, they do, like, open mail with me and stuff, and they read letters, and there'd be people being like, oh, I started collecting because of you. And I'd always watch that and be like, wow, that's cool. But like, I could never be one of those people. And obviously here we are. So that was a lie. But I remember just being like, this is so cool people do this. And it's like ASMR. I love watching it. But like, I had no inclination that I was going to do it. And then, you know what did it? My friend Rachel's still here. I mean, she's still here to this day. Actually, Rach and I, around this time, spring of 2021, met for the first time. We went to Nashville and hung out. And again, I remember my friends being like, you're going to hang out with this girl you've never met before? And I'm like, yes, obviously. So Rach and I, this is how Rach sends me. This is how I started getting into collecting. Rachel sends me this screenshot of a template of Han photocards. And she's like, just putting this here. And I literally was like, why did you just do this to me? Because you know that now I'm going to want to do this. And she was like, sorry. And that's how I was like, well, maybe I'll just collect these Han like photo cards. And also at the time, I did not have an Instagram for collecting. So I literally had to, and I bought like one. This is during No Easy now. No Easy had come out. And at this point, I'm like, literally to get all these photo cards, I have to just buy all of them. And then I think pretty quickly I was like, I'll collect OTA Stray Kids like from No Easy onward, because again, that's what a lot of people were doing around that era. So, and the amount of photo cards I had to purchase because I didn't know how to trade. Oh my God, I was buying also on Markar US because it's the only place that I could find photo cards. And, you know, I'm sure I spent a pretty penny, I think, at that time. But anyway, you know, it's all good. So then I forget what I was going to say. Let's finish these Stacy's and maybe I'll remember. Yeah, at that time, I think that's around when I started my YouTube channel, was like fall of 2021. Those videos are all still up. I don't recommend you watching them because the quality is like, okay, we're at twice now. Twice, girls. But, this is what I was going to say. So at this point also, I'm working at my gym. The gyms have reopened. Again, it's like 2021 now, so we still have to wear masks, which is rough, but I met this girl named Hannah and now is also one of my best friends. She just worked at the gym with me. And Hannah is like an actor. She like really loves like performance and like a concept and all this stuff. And I was like, I feel like I'm just going to send Hannah like a few of these K-pop videos. And this was truly just because I was like, I just like want to talk about these with someone. And I knew at least that she would like, even if she didn't stand any of the groups, she would like appreciate, the performance quality, which is true. She'd be like, oh, this is really cool. I forget what I would send her at the beginning, but it was mostly Stray Kids because that was the group that at the time I was like, I'm so obsessed with them, which I still am. But at the beginning, you're like so into everything. And Thunderous comes out and I sent the video to Hannah. Also at this point, Hannah will never forgive me for saying this. Well, she will, but I had sent her the Drive music video because I remember everyone knows Drive. Yeah. So I sent her that video and she was like, oh, cool. I think she did not understand the gravity of the situation. Later, I showed it to her again, and she was literally rolling on the floor, screaming, like, freaking out. And I was like, yeah, that's the reaction that I was hoping you would give me at the beginning, but it's okay, we're here now. So anyway, I sent her Thunderous. She apparently was on a walk. She stopped in her tracks. She watched the Thunderous video 3 times. And I was like, I think I got her. So, and I did. She got really into Stray Kids. She is like one of those people who, she is into so many different things. So she got into Stray Kids. That's like her K-pop group. Like I tell her about other groups. She listens. She knows who Wooyoung is. She knows like, obviously she knows BTS. She loves Jimin. Like she knows everything, but she has stayed strong and is basically like, into Stray Kids, likes other groups. She loves DPR Ian. Cause again, a concept, So, this is totally fine because she like respects the genre and stuff. She knows about NCT, all this stuff. So this is in 2021. Oh, also in 2021, in the spring, I started listening to NCT Dream because the Hot Sauce album came out, and Hot Sauce was not my favorite song, but I really liked some of the other songs on that album. So that's how I'm trying to weave. I started listening to Twice around that time too. And then, yeah, end of 2021, that's when I started collecting. And then I started collecting Sangyeon, like pretty soon after. It was Han / OT8 Stray Kids and Sangyeon from The Boys. And then I was buying some albums, but at the time I was like, okay, maybe I'll just complete all the albums for like Stray Kids. And then I was like, I'll do it for ATEEZ too. I didn't start collecting ATEEZ for a little while though, like photo card wise. And then I was like, well, I should probably do BTS. And then I was like, well, and Hypen just debuted. I had bought like every version of their debut album. And then I was like, well, and Hypen, I'm following them since debut. I should just buy all their albums because that'd be cool to like have an album of groups since I started standing from debut. And then I think there was TXT. And then I started adding into ONEUS and ONEWE. And then, oh, when did I start getting into Monsta X? Also, like spring, man, spring of 2021 was such a good time for releases in K-pop because Ace had a good release around then too. Like, I don't know, good stuff was coming out around then. So, yeah, and then, yeah, Monsta X. Oh my gosh, so sad. My mom and I were supposed to see Monsta X on tour in Boston when I still lived up there. My mom was just like, she was like, oh, this is like a K-pop group and like there aren't a lot of concerts happening right now, so should we just like go? And she and I were literally gonna go see them in Boston. This was the tour that they had to cancel literally like 2 weeks before or something. It was very crazy. I feel like all Monbebe to this day are still like, what is going on? And then when they re-announced their tour, they were not coming back to Boston anymore at all. So my mom never got to see them. And then they decided to do their tour. Oh, yes. So I'm getting into The Boys, ATEEZ. This is again, now this is like, when? Getting into 2022 now. My friend Rachel, I'm getting her into the groups. I go to her house for New Year's and I'm like, we're going to start watching the show Kingdom. Like, I'm making you do it. And then I started showing her Stray Kids videos. I remember I showed her Cheese and that was the moment. And then she's like, okay, she was gonna come and visit me in like a few weeks. This is like going into 2022. And I was like, she was like, I'm gonna have my Stray Kids bias at this point, so then we'll be able to talk about it. So the whole time, there's like a 2-week span between when we see each other. She's apparently like watching all these Stray Kids videos. She's watching like part of Kingdom. And then she comes to visit me. Oh, I'm gonna put this with my unit card page. She comes to visit me. It's like beginning of 2022. It's literally downpouring, snowing in Boston. And also really funny, we stayed up one night to watch like the Fact Music Awards. They were just on YouTube and we literally stayed up until like 3 a.m. watching. Such a fun time. And then we were gonna hang out with my friend Hannah, but Hannah wasn't feeling too well, so she did not come. And then we hung out with my friend Tessa as well. So now I'm combining all my friends together to like all be friends. This was, oh my god, 2021 was when we saw BTS. Oh my gosh, yeah, I went to LA with my friend Tessa, Emmy, Rachel. Y'all have heard this cast of characters at this point now through this story, and my mom. So all of us go and we saw BTS in LA. Oh my god, that was so fun. Okay, anyway. So Rachel comes to visit me beginning of 2022 and she's like, okay, I found my Stray Kids bias. Like, guess who it is? And I was like, okay. Oh, this lenti is not going to fit in here. That's fine. And I guessed all these, and I did not guess the right one, and it was Changbin. So Rachel's old bias is Changbin. I like don't know. It was so unexpected. I remember I started like jumping up and down screaming. I was so excited. And then The Boys, at some point, I don't know if this is the exact timeline, The Boys announced that they're going on tour. Stray Kids also announced that they're going on tour, right? Yes. So The Boys, they were going to, my friend Rachel lives in Atlanta. The Boys were going to Atlanta on No, Monsta X was going to Atlanta first. And I'm like, you know what, Rach, maybe I can go down and visit you. She didn't know a lot about Monsta X at the time besides just like general knowledge. And I'm like, would you go and see Monsta X with me? Because at this point I like knew about them. I knew, but I didn't know, like, I wasn't like deep into them yet. So Rach is like, yeah, sure. So we bought tickets, and then the boys announced the tour, and they're literally going to Atlanta the next day. Monsta X is on a Saturday, the boys is on a Sunday. And I was like, Rachel, you're coming with me to see the boys. Like, this is too good timing. That weekend, still like one of my favorite weekends of all time. We had such a fun time in the summer in Atlanta, going to the K-pop stores. Oh my God, it was so good. The boys still have not come back on tour. Now there's Monsta X, but like that's different. It's crazy. Why have they not come back? Ugh. So yeah, that's how I started really getting into Monsta X, because then Rach and I are like, okay, we need to like deep dive before we see them. She's learning about the boys. I'm learning about Monsta X. Then she's learning about Monsta X. And then we're like, wait, these Monsta X is amazing. And just, I remember like watching videos with her, like it, oh my gosh, it was such a, that time, 2020, was it 2022? 2022. That happened like, my timeline's all messed up. Anyway. So yeah, 2022. So then, yeah. And then obviously Stray Kids goes on tour. We drop too much money, go to see them 2 different cities, then get to Atlanta for the 3rd stop, find out that Stray Kids has COVID, also find out that Rachel and I have COVID. Hannah was literally going to fly down to Atlanta that morning, and I had to text her being like, don't get on the plane, because first of all, the concert's canceled. Second of all, you can't stay with us because we have COVID. And my friend Tessa was already in Atlanta, and then I had to text her like, okay, the concert's canceled, and also we can't even hang out because Rachel and I have COVID. And this was literally 4th of July. My friend Rachel and I have just enough time, quarantine for a whole week. Then we fly to New York, go to see TXT in concert in New York with my mom. We had to wear our masks, like we wore our masks like the entire time. I got my mom a separate hotel room because I was like, we don't need to get you sick. Oh my God. And then like a few weeks later, my mom and I fly to Chicago to go see J-Hope and TXT at Lollapalooza. Oh my God, that was so fun. Oh, wow. And then at this time, I'm still only collecting like Han and Sungyeon. And then, wow, what was it that made me, well, it literally was one day. I was like, okay, I'm gonna collect Lido from ONEUS, Gyeok from ONE, Jungkook from BTS, Kihyun from Monsta X, Yang from NCT, and I think that was it. That was like my first round of people, I think. If I missed someone, I'll remember it later. Okay, now we're getting into our pre-order cards, I think. Yep. So that was like that was an hour-long story that I just told. But that's like, and then the way that I got into NCT, N17, they were like my last, and Twice actually. Speaking of Twice, they were my last like cycle of groups that I, like alt groups that I really got into. And that was all mainly in 17 was in 2022. I watched In the Soup, their first In the Soup, and I at this time was like getting to know my friends from the You Girls K-drama podcast, and they were really into 17, so I would like voice memo them like about 17. And S-Coops was my first bias in 17, and then honestly, when did Wonu, I can't explain when I like found that Wonu was my bias, but I just like one day was like, oh my God, I love this guy. And NCT was then honestly, it was like last year, 2023, like obviously I knew all about NCT, and I like liked Sticker, and I liked Kick It, and like that stuff, but I hadn't like, and at this point, I probably like almost knew all of the members, just because like, there's just, you just kind of like learn about them as you're learning about K-pop. But it was really last year that I started getting into NCT, and I did the same thing. I watched a lot of their variety content, and I just really fell in love with them. I just thought that they're such like a special group of people. So that was a really fun time. And that's when I really started standing 17. And that's when I got my friend Rachel again. Rachel is just the one who I pull into everything. I'm like, you like this one group BTS. Now I'm going to drag you into literally every single other group that I like. And God bless her. She really does it. She commits. We saw Woods recently. She learned all about Woods. We saw NCT Dream recently. She then learned all about NCT Dream. Chumless her bias. 17 again was, are these monograph cards going to fit in here? Good. 17 was like around Super that my friend Rach like actually got into them. And at that point around Super, I was still only collecting like one 17 album per release. And then I decided to just go all in and I was like, oh, I'll just buy everything. Yes, and my friend Rachel's bias is Junghan and then Josh and Scoops also. So, and that was so fun. Like, let's think about the groups too. I just have like so many great memories of like getting into these groups with my friends or like watching video content. Because then in that last year was also when TXT came to DC and Tessa and Rachel came in and my mom, we all went to go see them together. And Tessa and I have seen One Us several times together. We're going to see them again soon, which is very exciting. And then I moved to DC in the fall of 2023. Yes, because 2022. And yeah, because we're in 2024 right now. Yep. And when I moved here, 17 came like 2 weeks later, so I got to see them on tour, which is very exciting. But we need them to come back because I need to see them with my friend Rachel now. Because they're like one of our like just favorite groups now. But when I moved to DC, my friend Hannah, who I met at the gym, who was moving to LA, I was moving to DC, and she was like, oh my gosh, Meg, I have this friend. I forgot I have this friend who lives in Virginia, and she also likes K-pop. Like, should I get all of us to like hang out and have dinner? And I was like, oh my god, yes. And this is my friend Shamma, who's now also one of my best friends. And we started bonding because I think I was wearing like a 17 shirt and she was like, oh my god, I like 17. And I was like, oh my god. And obviously all of us were really into Stray Kids, including Hannah, so we all were like bonding about that. And then Shamma was doing some like event or something and she asked me to come with her. And then that's where I met my friend Claire, because Shamma and Claire also met at like a cup sleeve event. And then Shamma started doing like DC cup sleeve events. So I would go to that. I would go with Claire. Claire now lives like kind of close to me. So Claire and I hang out a lot, which is really fun. So yeah, it just like the web just keeps, the web just keeps webbing. Oh yeah. Wow. Let me just finish sleeving these Twice cards and then we'll have 2 out of our 3 binders done. All right. Well, everyone, so that was 2 of my 3 binders. I'm going to make this a 2-parter because this is already an hour long. So we're going to go on and I'm going to make a new video and we're going to be sleeving all the rest of my miscellaneous boy groups. So I'll be back with that video very soon. Thanks for watching this part. Bye.